This knife here is a knife that I've been eyeing for a while. Now, I've only seen this knife in some videos. I've seen it in a store once. I've never had a chance to hold it. So today, that makes this knife extra special for me because it's not a knife that you need, but it's a knife that's really nice to have, especially if you are like me and you do a lot of cooking with meat. I smoke ribs and smoke salmon all the time. So for me, having a dedicated fillet knife or a boning knife is really, really nice. Okay, so without talking too much, let's get this thing opened. Now, as you guys may remember, Shun does a pretty spectacular job in terms of packaging their knives, and so they want you to open their knives from the top of the box to keep the knife from spinning. There's a little compartment down here. So, instructions, which we will not need. So this is their classic 6-inch fillet / boning knife in the classic line. Did I say classic already? Already, I like the way the handle feels. This is very, very smooth pack of wood and very well polished. The finish is impeccable. You ready? I feel like I'm holding a mini scimitar, right? Or scimitar, or scimitar. I think it's how you pronounce it. But really beautiful. I mean, this is just so well made. I have a couple of boning knives now, and they have a straight edge or a very slight curve in this area and a very slight curve in this area. But I've never seen a boning knife that is, curved from tip to tip, which is going to make it very interesting in terms of cutting performance. I think this will perform very, very well, on chicken, on fish, on ribs. Besides that, I mean, just the fit and finish of this knife is just impeccable. I always like to look at the spine of a knife, and that is, to me, is one of the first indicators of how well the knife is put together in terms of the craftsmanship and and the finish. I mean, the finish of this knife, there are no sharp edges other than obviously the sharp edge itself. The choil or the neck is very nicely polished. The handle and the blade itself comes together at a really nice joint, and there is zero skip, zero step right here, which is actually quite rare in a Japanese knife. If you guys know, most Japanese knife manufacturers don't do a very good job when it comes to finishing their handles. This is a nice D-shaped handle. More for a right-handed than a left-handed person. It's not necessarily uncomfortable for a lefty to use, but it's definitely much more comfortable for a right-handed person. I've got small hands, so for me, this is actually a very comfortable knife. But I can imagine folks with a larger hand, this handle may just feel a little bit on the smaller side in terms of the circumference. But overall, the handle is really, really well made. The wood polish is beautiful. This is an ebony pack of wood, which is really nicely done. Most of the time when you see pack of wood with Japanese knives, they're really cheap feeling, and they're definitely just not knives, not handles that you would want to, I don't know. I have a bias against Japanese knives when it comes to handles, and this is the exception. So this uses a VG Max steel, which is it's actually a slightly harder steel than a VG10. On a Rockwell scale, you're looking at a 60 to 61, which is actually quite hard for an everyday knife. Most knives that you guys find in the kitchen will be range from 55 to 59. So to have a knife that is over 60 at these price points is actually quite nice. But it's got a really nice Damascus finish. I believe this is a 32 layer on each side with a VG Max core steel. And this is a 6-inch blade, which is perfect for someone like me. I don't have a lot of space in my home, and I don't cut huge slabs of meat. Most of the meat that I cut are chicken, salmon, and St. Louis style or baby style ribs or baby back ribs. So having a 6-inch blade is probably the max in terms of what I need for a boning knife. And I'm not going to test the sharpness of the knife. I mean, it does feel sharp, very, very sharp. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say it's probably about a 7, maybe an 8. But one thing to notice for a boning knife, you don't want the sharpest boning knife, because when you're cutting, meats that have bone left in it, there is a very slight chance that you will nick that, that bone. And so having an ultimately sharp, a very, very sharp knife, you risk chipping that edge a little bit. So having a knife that is sharp is important, but for a boning knife, You want a knife that's sharp on a scale of 1 to 10. I would say between a 7 and an 8. Any more than that, you risk chipping the cutting edge. So for me, it's more about the craftiness of the knife and how well it's made, and how well it feels in my hand, or how good it feels in my hand. Not necessarily how sharp it is, because I can spend just a few extra seconds or a few extra minutes and sharpen the knife better than any factory machine can. Okay, so yeah, this is a beautiful knife. I love this this curve. It's just a very sexy feeling knife, very sexy looking knife. Don't you agree? So I'm very excited to use it. I'll be using this knife over the course of the next few weeks, and I'll give you guys a full review. I'm actually quite curious as to how it's going to work in terms of sharpening on a whetstone with a knife that's curved all the way through. I actually have never sharpened a knife that is curved all the way through. Most of my Gyotos, as you guys know, will be straight from the first 3/4 of the knife, and then the top 1/4 or top 1/3 will be slightly slanted or curved. But this is this is a very interesting profile to sharpen. So I'm curious as to how it would feel on all the whetstones, from the Shapton Glass to the Choceras to the Superstones and the Shapton Pros, and see which series of stones will be best for this sort of a knife. And at the end of this series, this is one of the knives that I will be giving away. So if you guys are interested in winning this knife, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. I will be posting videos of giveaways for everything that I will be giving away at the end of the series, and this is going to be one of them. So very exciting times, folks. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.